to be here and talking about bespoke therapies and customization. And I think you'll find where I'm going a little interesting. I spend my time working with companies designing products that include digital and often combining them in with some kind of diagnostic, some kind of therapy. You'll recognize some of the products here that may have just been recently announced in the wearables space. I have the luxury of working with a company that does make lingerie, but they also make workout gear, fitness gear, pro fitness gear, etc. But what we're getting to is systems of care, systems of therapy, much like we see here with the Dexcom device, working together with the Tandem diabetes insulin pump, working together with an Apple iPhone, working together with an Apple Watch. 3 different manufacturers all coming together as one system to manage a therapy. What we're beginning to see is open systems in medicine, open in a way where you can create combinations that you wouldn't necessarily have expected in the past. I started to think, how can I relate to this theme in terms of what we're doing here at Scripps? And I thought one of the trials I could talk to you about is what we did with Ebola. We were asked by the White House and the US Navy to attack a problem of Ebola from the perspective of the healthcare worker. How do we protect the healthcare worker? So how do we take technologies and increase the safety for the healthcare worker? So what we did is we took technologies that were simple and easy to use, but complex in terms of the physiological measurements they could acquire, and put them into an environment that replaced the healthcare worker having to get dressed up into a suit that now was created an environment of 140 degrees internally and could only be worn for 20 minutes before they had to take it back off again, and put an environment where the patient could actually put the technology on themselves, and the healthcare worker didn't actually have to touch them or even get addressed. So you see the technology going onto the sternum. It then feeds into a tablet. The tablet now looks like a traditional ICU environment. But the most interesting part of this particular study that we put together was that we replaced that tablet with another form. We used GE jet engine technology to analyze the feedback of these 8 different physiological sensors to then come into a very simple green, yellow, red decompensation model. And we asked the healthcare professionals, the nurses and doctors, to ultimately say which did they rely on, the squiggly lines of temperature and ECG and heart rate, and et cetera, or the color coding system. And reality is the color coding system won out in the long run. But as I was thinking about customization and thinking about what's really going to make a difference about customization of therapies, I decided that a whole different topic made sense, and that was waiting rooms. So I'm actually going to talk to you about waiting rooms and what the role of waiting rooms are today in healthcare, and what it's going to mean for accessing patients and getting information and care to patients in the future. Do we have sound?
Huh? I am getting a lot of work done. Your Wi-Fi is very fast.
But he's ready for you now.
I'll be with him as soon as I can.
Is she ready?
Not yet, but you're next.
The consumer is beginning to customize their care. And that's really the story I want to talk to you a little bit about. And I call this the rise of the interlopers. These are the organizations that are finding ways to aggregate patients in ways that are different than traditional medical providers. And in the process of aggregating patients in new ways, are going to put new products, new services, and new experiences in front of those patients and actually change referral patterns, and therefore make changes in the way that patients access their specialty services, the care they provide, the drugs they receive, etc. And so what is this based on? Why am I talking about interlopers and patient experiences and waiting rooms? It's because 50% of the US population has no primary care physician. And half of the remaining 50% can't name a physician they went to in the last 2 years. What I'm pointing is classic marketing that says there's no relationship with the healthcare system except for those people that are regularly involved in the healthcare system. And as a result, the traditional ways of aggregating patients, of hanging a shingle on your storefront as a medical practice and hoping patients show up, or drawing a circle around your hospital and saying, this is our catchment area, are being replaced by techniques of new aggregators using digital technologies, where they aggregate patients for purposes of building a business model. They build in transactions, a la Silicon Valley. They mine data. They build trust in their offerings, with their service, with their customer base. They monetize along this value proposition, and they still keep in referrals. They refer people down the line to other care, but they own and control the ecosystem that they refer to and begin to monetize that ecosystem. They're doing this by capturing the front-end relationship with the consumer while the traditional healthcare industry is distracted doing what they do every day. So who are these folks? You know many of them. They're the urgent cares of the world who are currently doing 188 million visits a year. They're the retail clinics currently doing 10 million visits a year. They're the telemedicine providers that by 2020 are expected to do about 160 million visits a year. They're doing 75 now. There are house calls that are re-emerging, basically due to analogies caused by Uber. And very, very quietly, the thing we were all worried about, not having enough primary care physicians, is being addressed by the fact that the number of nurse practitioners has doubled over the last decade, as well as the number of PAs has doubled. We now have more PAs and nurse practitioners than we have primary care physicians in America. We have more nurse practitioners alone graduating each year by 50%, 150% of primary care doctors finishing residencies each year. So we're substituting a whole new class of healthcare provider down at the primary care level. We're also seeing companies like Walgreens very, very successfully get into people's pockets through their app, through almost up to 40 million people now where the app is in their pocket. And they're using that app not only for the simple function of making it easy to get your refills, which is compliance and sales, but to starting to expose the other services that Walgreens would like you to be exposed to. We have a point system for loyalty points. We have in-store labs. We have connected health devices. We have in-store clinical trials now as we're launching their clinical trials program, all tied to the underlying app that now has been put into people's pockets. This is one of the interlopers that also has the clinic sites. ZocDoc does something similar, but in terms of appointments. The key to the model here is they're collecting data on who you're going to, when you're going to, how often you're going to, and what specialties you're going to. That's a lot of data when you start thinking about where you might start impacting referral patterns and direction on healthcare consumption in the future. And we're seeing a change in creating the narrowest of networks. Companies like Walmart, Lowe's, and Boeing are taking high-cost events like hip and joint surgeries and concentrating them on the narrowest of networks. In the case of these three, 6 hospitals in America out of 5,000, and saying we will pay to send the patient, the family member, and pay for the hotel, and we'll go to the best of class centers of excellence that we've identified that have the outcomes and the price point for our surgery, and send these elective high-cost surgeries to those 6 hospitals. This has been in place now for the last 8 months. 9 other companies are on that list as well. So what's primary care? What's the great aggregator of patients that is supposed to be holding people's hands as they migrate through their journey in healthcare? If retail clinics, urgent care, and on-site clinics and telemedicine are going to serve half of primary care contacts, they're almost there today. They will definitely be there by 2018, 2019 timeframe. So what's our definition of primary care going to be? What does this mean in terms of referral patterns going forward? What I think it means is the patients are telling us they're reinventing, they're customizing their experience. They're going for convenience, they're going for price, they're going to the place that's around the corner that's easy to get, that doesn't make them wait in waiting rooms. They're dictating how they're going to access that front door to healthcare, and it's going to have severe impacts on the specialty services and the other services they get down the line as they change the definition of primary care. Thank you very much.